Hi, everyone. I'm Lou Spisto, the executive director and producer for Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles. And I am delighted to share lots of information about GMCLA. So if you want to hear more about us, listen to this interview. Experiencing performing arts, or frankly, any art form live, is essential to build community and to have community. And I think that's one of the reasons GMCLA has been so important to this region, to Los Angeles, to the country for the past 45 years. We bring together a community. We can call it the LGBTQ plus community, but it's really much broader than that. It's a community of people who want to celebrate what we do, our music, and come together and be together. And there's no way to experience that unless you're in, quote unquote, in the room together, in the theater together. And as great as TV and film, and we all adore film, it's a very different medium. But, during the pandemic, we all experienced having to put our programming on the streaming platforms, which is great. And it's a great way to expand audience, but it does not replace the feeling of being together and experiencing something live. Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles is about beautiful music and powerful community. And that's what we say. That is our slogan. And it's not an empty slogan. It's very meaningful because we can affirm our lives. One can say we're about, gay men, but we're about much more than that. We're about music, bringing people together, music, helping express who we are. The very fact that gay men, and we have non-binary folks and trans folks and other people in our chorus today, which is fantastic. And we've had straight folks in the chorus. We accept everyone in the chorus. But the fact that primarily as an organization, we are a gay organization, the fact that we are coming together and being on stage and singing in a public space has always been an identifying wonderful thing about this organization. And it is great for the soul because it can reach people and it can kind of connect us in a way. When we perform for high schools, I really do believe that, and I don't believe this because it's something that I've, thought, it's something that I've been told, it's something that teachers and students have said, it's transformative. We can transform lives. We take for granted today, especially in Los Angeles, we live in this wonderful world where we're open and accepting. But music, bringing people together, first and foremost, it has to be great music. And music always reaches the soul. Music is something that, if it's done well, and sometimes even if it's not done very well, it's an exciting feeling to connect. I read once where, maybe in the 1980s, I read that music is more important to human life than many other things. It is right up there with food, water. Music is essential to our lives, the experience of sound. And when we come together, and when 200 singers come together on stage, as we have with our chorus, we'll be 190 on stage for our concerts coming up. It's a feeling that you cannot describe, that you cannot get in any other fashion or form. It's just incredible. Well, I heard about the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles when I was working. I was the executive director for the Pacific Symphony in Orange County. And I, through a friend of mine, who was at that time on the board of the Gay Men's Chorus, I was introduced to the chorus. I came up to LA. I was not living in LA. I was living in Irvine. I came up to LA to see them. And I think that they were at the Wiltern Theater. This was in the 90s. And I met John Bailey, who was the conductor, artistic director at that time. And John and I became friends through our mutual friend, Don Pattinson. And I just fell in love with what they were doing on stage. I love music. John was and still is a consummate musician. And he was able to bring a volunteer chorus together and make them sound absolutely beautiful. And the programming was more decidedly classical than perhaps we do today, but he also added a bit of Broadway and a bit of contemporary. So that's when I first became involved. I've been involved as a professional with nonprofits my entire life. I've also worked in commercial theater on Broadway, and I've done some other film projects and such more recently. But the majority of my career has been as an advocate or as a manager, as an administrator in the nonprofit performing arts world. I got to know Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles again back in 2015 when I moved to Los Angeles, and the person who was then the executive director introduced me and asked me to be on the board of directors. And I was on the board for about 2.5 years. And I left the board to go do a couple of other things I was focusing on another board and a couple of other things. And then I was asked to come in 2019 to step in on an interim basis while the chorus was kind of rebuilding. There were some issues that made the chorus kind of propel it into a new direction. And they asked, knowing that I had been involved with managing nonprofits. I had not expected to do this. This was not in the game plan. This was not in my, this was not in my vision. But I got involved with the chorus for a very short time, and then they asked me to stay on. And I have been, and it's been interesting because we first had to rebuild organizationally in middle of 19, and we did very well. And we brought on this phenomenal music director, Ernest Harrison, at the end of 19. But I hadn't intended to stay, and I've just fallen in love with it. And through the pandemic, which was another reason why all of us in the performing arts faced this particular challenge, which has never been seen before, and hopefully never again. So with that, and with the kind of change in the dynamic of what we were able to do, and then another kind of rethink of the organization, I stayed on through that. And then since the pandemic, I'm happy to say that we've been able to build back most of, certainly in terms of service, we're doing even more than we've done before. In terms of music and performances, we're at the level on our main stage, and we do much more in the community than we did pre-pandemic. And our ticket sales are very good. They are strong. I would say that in terms of individual donations, we still are not at the place that we were pre-pandemic. But we've been doing very well financially. We've been able to balance our budgets, working within the scope of what we can do while building out artistically. And I'm really happy to say in the education and community outreach area, we're doing quite a bit, and I'm very proud of that. Most people know GMCLA as this fabulous, 200-person choir that stands on stage throughout the year at major venues, as we have for 45 years, at the Music Center, at Walt Disney Concert Hall, at the Saban Theatre, at the Alex Theatre, at Royce Hall. We've been to Carnegie Hall. We've been throughout Europe. Most people know this great, big, incredibly exciting, dynamic performance structure, if you will. And that's the majority of what we do in terms of what we call the tentpole productions, the season and the paid performances. But we have an enormous amount of programming that goes into schools, specifically the high schools, and in some cases the middle schools. We've been doing this for about a dozen years. We call it the Alive Music Project. We go into a school, we perform for an assembly, but as important as the performance is, we have an opportunity to have our members, the singers in the chorus, we use the term members because they are our members. The singers will take perhaps 4 to 6 of them, and they will speak about their lives from the stage, specifically in a way that can relate to young people, about coming out, about being bullied, about challenges they faced. We never are in a situation where we're proselytizing or advocating or saying this is what you should. We just talk about who we are, and by virtue of being on that stage, for the majority of the kids, that's just a great musical performance, and they get to know what being gay is about. And perhaps this is an experience they haven't had or an exposure they haven't had. And for those kids who might be gay or who might be not necessarily fitting the mold for whatever reason, this is a safe space for them. And we have heard from teachers and students. I actually interviewed a young man who was about 28 years old for a position here about a year ago. And he said, my parents knew that when I was a kid in high school, you guys came to my school. He said, and that changed my life. He said, I was able to kind of find myself and talk to my parents. We get, letters like this. And again, we're not pushing a lifestyle. We're not doing anything other than singing and saying this is who we are. So we've done that so successfully, and we've reached about 85,000 students over this past number of years. And we're fortunate in LA that the schools are open to us. We do, we survey the school before, we survey the school after. We want to know, have we made an impact and what can we do better? All of that kind of thing. We've also been involved with the Arts for Healing Justice Network, which has been very, very powerful. And it's a very intense program where we have in the past gone into incarceration facilities. We work with, incarcerated youth, juvenile detention centers, that kind of thing. We haven't done that since the pandemic because of certain situations and requirements and the change in the way that works. But we continue, our music director, who is an educator himself, continues to go into these facilities and do lectures or workshops or master classes. And he's working with Arts for Healing Justice a lot. And we're thrilled about that. And he's on the board of that organization. We also, in addition to these programs for young people, we do an enormous amount of free programming in the school, in parks, in recreation centers, in churches, in hospitals, in community centers. In addition to, of course, the Pride parades. We're very busy in June. Every town in this greater wonderful area, seems to have a Pride parade. We have the West Hollywood Pride Parade. We have the Los Angeles Pride Parade now. We have other areas. We've gone into community parks in Baldwin Hills. We've gone down to the South Bay. We've gone to the Valley a lot. We've done a lot of social justice advocacy support. For instance, during the women's march movements of the last few years, going back many years, but certainly a year and a half ago, when obviously Roe versus Wade was up for consideration, and we all know how that ultimately went. But we marched and we sang on the steps of the LA City Hall. And we support our sisters. That's really been important to us all these years. We support causes wherever we can, where people are seeking justice, seeking equality, seeking recognition. And the chorus is, vastly more diverse than we were, when we started as part of the March on Washington in the late 70s, which we are an outgrowth of that, as is San Francisco and New York. The biggest chorus is we began as an outgrowth of the gay liberation movement, which was a very specific thing at a very specific time. And then, moving past gay liberation, of course, we went right into the horrible 15 years that was the height of the AIDS crisis. And we were fighting for lives and funding and acknowledgement of this. And the story of what happened in the 80s with this. And so GMCLA was as often at memorial services and candlelight vigils and, marches for federal support of healthcare. So that was a big period. And then in the 90s, a lot of things happened. Obviously Matthew Shepard was another touchstone in our world, and things that happened at that period of what was happening in terms of the horrors there. And then, of course, in the 2000s, the movement was for marriage equality, and we marched and we sang and we created connection. And unfortunately, in the last number of years, we have marched and we have rallied after horrible events like the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando. And, it's been, it's funny because a couple of years ago, I said to one of my colleagues, I think it was maybe 4 years ago, I said, gee, I wonder if there'll become a time when we don't need to exist from a social perspective. I mean, we'll always need to exist from a musical perspective, but will there be a time when the fight for acceptance or the fight against bullying or the fight against whatever this is, movement, of course, we know what this is, but I'm speaking metaphorically. Is this ending? There's a world of acceptance? And I don't think that's necessarily, and I'm really actually sorry to say that, because I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that ultimately we see in our own backyard. I mean, in Glendale, we had parents, protesting that the school was, having a pride booth or a pride is teaching about pride during the month of June. We see in our own backyard, and I'm not trying to pick on Glendale because great people in Glendale, but I'm not trying to go against anyone, or we're not trying to. We're just trying to stand up for ourselves. And you would think that by now in LA, and let's not talk about the rest of the country and what's happening in other states. The states, I don't need to name them, and you know what's happening with women's rights and LGBT rights. And of course, today, that extends more broadly to trans rights. And we're not where we should be. We're blessed here in Southern California, for the most part, to be in a fantastic place. So part of our singing is simply to say, we're here. Don't ignore us. Don't forget us. But again, I'm a producer. I'm a performing arts guy. I'm a theater guy. We've got to give you a great show. When we stand up there, whether it's in whether we're singing at the Lakers, which we did recently, or at a memorial like we did recently for the incredible Roz Wyman, the city council legend, or we're going to be this week, we're going to be tomorrow, we're going to be at 2 World AIDS Day events. We're going to be singing at the Minority AIDS Project World AIDS Day commemoration, and we're going to be singing at USC for their unveiling of the quilt, the AIDS quilt. The incredible AIDS quilt is coming back to LA for the first time in many years. So we're going to be singing for that. So we're going to be in both places. We're going to split the chorus, and we're going to put some people here. But we've got to be good. Whenever we sing, we want to be as wonderful and beautiful as we can possibly be. This season is our 45th season, which is pretty spectacular if you think about it. We are the second or third chorus in the country in terms of the timeline. We were established in the late, obviously, do the math. We were in 1978, 79. So we do a season, and we do a season at major venues, and we are at the Saban Theatre in Beverly Hills, which is at Wilshire and Doheny, a block off of Doheny. It's right in the middle of everything. It's a fantastic venue, beautiful Art Deco venue. We're there for 2 programs, the first of which is coming up in a couple of weeks. We're there December 16th and 17th for our traditional holiday show, which always kicks off our season. It's the first of 3 major weekends. I'll come back to that in a second. The second, and the program this year is entitled Hooray for Holidays, obviously a spinoff of Hooray for Hollywood, and I'll explain why that is. Then the second program of the year on March 23 and 24, also at the Saban, is We Heart Boy Bands. And the third program, which is this year going to be at the Pasadena Civic Auditorium, we try to vary our location a little bit so that people who are more east side or people who are more west side or center make it convenient. The Pasadena Civic this is the first time we're going there on our own program, and it's huge. It's 2,900 seats. So we're only doing one concert on Sunday, June 30th, and that program is titled Solid Gold, ARETHA, DIONNE, and WHITNEY. Obviously, 3 legends of music, all solid gold. So coming back to the first shows we're doing this month, the theme is Hooray for Holidays, And all of the music is either, and it's all holiday music. All the music is either from or has been used in film or television. Obviously, we've got the big standards like White Christmas, and we wish you a Merry Christmas. We've got, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. We've got music from Meet Me in St. Louis. We've got music from, obviously, Irving Berlin's Holiday Inn, White Christmas. But then more than that, we've got music from a lot of television shows. We've got music from rock versions of holiday songs that were done in movies and film. We've got, of course, Rudolph. We've got The Grinch. We've got Charlie Brown. We've got all these fun songs, and we've got pop songs like Last Christmas that George Michael did that was used in film. We've got music from, of course, so many different avenues of film and television, and people will know all of the music. They'll know all of the music. And then we have some surprises. We always do our own version of a few things, and we do a twist. We make it gay, as they say. I think that was a song from the producers. We make it gay. So we are going to have some fun twists on some songs that you know well. And there'll be a dance troupe that will do a few numbers as well. Within the chorus, we have some great dancers. We'll have some costuming. There'll be a little bit of production, a little bit of props. It's kind of a quasi concert, slightly leaning into theater. So we're excited about that. So that's this show in December 16, 17 at the Saban. And tickets are available at gmcla.org. The second show is boy bands. We Heart Boy Bands, which I think is pretty self-explanatory. It's certainly heavily into the 90s, but we go all the way back to the 60s. We go back to the original boy bands. We go to, all of the big boy bands, NSYNC and New Kids and Backstreet Boys and all of that. And then we go to, current day One Direction, which obviously is no longer. Then we go to BTS. We're going to have some surprises. We've got an incredible choreographer working with us on that show, Ray Leeper, who is just one of the best and just did Dancing with the Stars and has done So You Think You Could Dance. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. The third show, which is ARETHA, DIONNE, WHITNEY. I mean, these are three legends and their music is timeless, iconic. Each of them has a discography that, goes on for days and pages. And we're going to pick what we think are the top songs and what we think are the songs that we can do very well. Usually in a show, we do anywhere from about 22 to 25 or 26 songs. So in that one, we'll try to divvy it up between these three legends. And a lot of the songs that these three greats sang and put forward, they can be tied thematically. And that show at the end of the year, June 30th, is always considered our Pride Month show. And at the end of that show, after the show, we will have our annual gala. And there's beautiful, catering spaces and all of that are attendant to the Pasadena Civic Auditorium, which makes it really great to have the gala. Last year, we had the gala following our Disney Pride concerts, which, I know it's last year and not this year, but the Disney Pride in concert was one of the highlights of GMCLA's 45-year history. And I've seen a lot of our videos on YouTube, and I have great respect because this chorus has done some great work. But we did these two concerts last June at Disney Hall, which were spectacular with video and just beautiful, the canon of Disney. This year, our last show, which will be part of our gala weekend, will be, of course, as I said, ARETHA, DIONNE, WHITNEY. Coming back full circle to the December concerts, the Hooray for Holidays, we're really excited that Wayne Brady is going to be our guest artist. And when we have a guest artist, usually they do about 4 songs with us. And Wayne is, he's sui generis. There's very few like Wayne. Wayne is an actor. He dances incredibly well. He sings spectacularly well. He's a Broadway person. He's a TV host. He really is, multidimensional doesn't begin to describe him, and Triple Threat is just the beginning. He's been seen locally in theater. He's been seen at the Hollywood Bowl. He's been on Broadway. He's going back to Broadway. Following our concerts, he's going to be starting rehearsals for The Wiz, which goes to Broadway. I believe it's in San Francisco first, and then it goes to Broadway. So, and Wayne Brady is amazing. And recently he's announced that he's actually a part of our community. And that was a new thing, because we were going to have Wayne with us in 2020, but we canceled the performances because that was when the pandemic hit, and we had to cancel, as everyone did. So now Wayne's coming back. He loves us. We love him. And I think we're celebrating Wayne in so many ways right now. So we're excited to have him. Every year, GMCLA hosts an annual gala. The gala is the cornerstone of our individuals' fundraising activity for the year. And this has gone back a number of years. But in the last few years, we've made the gala even more special, because we wrap the gala around a concert experience. So our gala attendees will go to a concert either prior to or just following the concert. There'll be a reception, and there'll be a silent auction and a live auction and all that stuff. And then certainly after the performance and after the reception, we'll have a sit-down dinner. And the sit-down dinner is not just any sit-down dinner. We have surprises, we have performances, and we always honor one or two very special people in our community as part of our dinner. And we call this honor the Voice Award. And we give one or two or sometimes three Voice Awards a year. Last year, we honored Mayor Karen Bass with the Community Voice Award, the Civic Voice Award, and we honored the Disney Company for the Artistic Voice Award for all they actually have done in the community, more than people realize. And the past honorees have been, Melissa Etheridge and Billy Porter. We've honored television shows. We've honored political people. We've honored Dr. Jerry Abraham, who's an incredible infectious disease specialist here in LA, and since that time he's on our board, and he does incredible work in the LGBTQ and particularly in the trans community, the minority community. So we honor quite a number of people who have been important to our community. And the most important thing about the entire fundraising activity, the gala, is that it directly supports our education programs, our community programs. It provides funds for that which we don't generate earned income for, ticket sales for, that kind of thing. So all of the money that comes from this gala, and usually the gala nets anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000 in that range. So that's great money for us. And we are delighted to be hosting the gala this year at the Pasadena Civic Auditorium ballroom, which is really spectacular, and it's going to be catered. It's going to be beautiful, wonderful, and I think people are going to have a great time. When people come to a Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles concert, I want them to feel the joy, the love, the connection, not only to the music and to what we are on stage and who we are, but to each other. I've spent a lifetime going to performing arts and theater. I started when I was 11 years old. I'm from New York City. My mom, love her and thank her for taking me when I was 11 to my first Broadway show. And I've gone to concerts since that time. Like so many people, I've probably been to thousands of live events, performing arts. And I love the arts. But I don't think I experience community at anything else, including great concerts in Broadway and symphonic things and opera. I don't think I experience any kind of community as much as I do when I'm at a GMCLA concert. People are there for each other. They're there for us. There's nothing like that experience. So I want people to feel the connection to each other. We're in such a different place now. I mean, post-pandemic, and this has been coming for a long time, and I'm not trying to rag on social media or the phone. All of that is great. I love the phone. We all love the phone. But the fact of the matter is, being together in one space is critically important for everything that we are and for everyone. So when we come together, have this great music, fun, joy, it's a lot of heart. It's a lot of love. It's sometimes a bit of, some tears. I think that's what we want to experience. And I think that's what people do experience. So I'm hoping we can continue to bring them that, the joy and the connectivity and the community. When I'm watching and listening to the chorus, I must be completely candid and truthful and straightforward and a little bit, in the weeds here. On one level, when we're rehearsing and when we get into dress rehearsal, I'm listening for to make sure that the sound is coming across. As a producer, one of the most important things we can offer is a quality experience. And so I'm not responsible for making sure that they hit every note. That's our music director. But I want to make sure that we're presenting that quality and that the sound and very often in most situations, there are very few halls that we can be in that don't require some amplification or reinforcement of the sound. So I'm listening for that. I'm listening for, is this going to work sonically? Is the audience going to get it? I'm listening for clarity. I'm listening for an understanding of the lyrics. I'm listening for an audience, because if you can't understand what's being sung, it's hard to connect to it. And I know I love opera and I read the subtitles, so that helps. In opera, most opera we know for a century or more. We know what that is when we're going. But I'm really excited for the chorus performance to be as great as it can be. And then I'm looking for the chorus when I'm listening or looking at the chorus. I want them to be having a good time. I want to see that they're into it. If they're into it, and they are, the audience is going to be into it. If they're having a good time, the audience is going to be having a good time. If they believe what they're singing or presenting, the audience will believe it. If their heart is there, the audience's heart is there and will be captured. So that's what I'm really looking for when I'm listening and working with the chorus to develop a performance. I believe with all my heart that the SoCal audience must experience the kind of love and the kind of joy and the kind of music we can deliver. If they have not, they're missing something. And I understand that's a hyperbole, that's hucksterism, that sounds like an oversell, but there's nothing I can say on this video or one can get from watching one of our fabulous YouTube videos that can compete with the experience they will have. They must experience it at least once. Give it a shot. They may love it. They may say, hey, it's the best thing I've ever done. I'm going to come every time. Or they may say, I like that music. And when they have music like that, I'll come again. Or they may say, okay, that's great. I've done it. I don't need to do it again. But I think they must give this experience. They owe it to themselves to experience. And I hope the people who are watching me and who've lasted through this video to watch what I have to say or listen to what I have to say will come to our concerts, particularly the ones coming up December 16, 17 at the Saban Theatre, GMCLA.org. We'd love to have you, and I think you'll love it. Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles deserves people's support through donations, contributions, gifts, whatever you might call it. And we are a nonprofit. We, of course, all of our gifts that we accept, they're tax deductible to the donor. But we deserve support because no organization does what we do. And no organization has done what we do for the last 45 years. Without GMCLA in this community, there would be a void of the kind of service, a void of the kind of representation, a void of the kind of stand up and sing for us and others, a void of what we can do. We're incredible music. As I've said, we offer this incredible theatrical performance, musical, sonic experience. But what we do in the schools, what we do for our allies and for towns and municipalities and hospitals and all sorts of places, the service that we provide through, and this is really important, through the volunteerism of our 200 member singers who donate their time, who give of their time. There are very few places in this greater LA area where such a large and well-known and established organization is presented or presents a group of volunteers who sing or who perform at the level we do. I mean, it's gorgeous music, and they're giving their time, and they're acting on behalf of their love for the community. So I think we deserve the support. You cannot get a better organization. They're certainly as good, and they're certainly bigger. And we are extremely, extremely careful with our funds. Fiscally, we are very strong. The last 5 years, we have not had deficits, and I don't mean to be so technical, but sometimes people say, yeah, I'm going to give my money, and, are they going to blow it, or are they good with the money, and are they viable, are they going forward organization? Absolutely, 100%, very strong organizationally. We have a committed board, and we have 200 of the greatest people in the world that are giving. I calculated it, it's about 1,500 hours a year that each individual gives freely to be in this chorus. So I think that deserves support. In addition to the kids that are getting life-changing experiences and the communities who are seeing our music for free on a regular basis. I would just say a great way to get involved with a chorus right now is either or both. Come to see us on December 16th and 17th at the Saban, or make a donation. You can visit GMCLA.org. We're right in the middle of our holiday giving campaign. This is an important time of the year for us, and it's a great time of the year to show your love for whatever organization you love. And I hope it's the chorus, but I hope this is a time of year where people are in the giving spirit, and we are certainly very, very grateful and appreciate anything people can donate, small or large. Hi, I'm Lou Spisto. I am the executive director and producer for the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles. And I would love to invite you to the holiday concerts we are doing at the Saban Theatre on December 16th and 17th. You can go to gmcla.org to find out all about it. This year's concerts are titled Hooray for Holidays.